what's up, everybody? This is Isaiah Smith, and I'm sitting here with my co-sports editor, Chris Lambert. We're here ready to bring you guys the inaugural episode of the Colonnades 3 and Out podcast. Just a little bit about the podcast. We're going to be talking about the sports stories that we write every week for the Colonnade. We got a lot of stories that we want to do, so there's going to be a lot of content for you guys to talk about, but we're going to try to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. So, yeah, Chris, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, we're just going to go through, 3 and out, first, second, third down, and then, every now and then we'll throw in a little fourth down, something for us. We'll try to keep it to mostly Colonnade stories, first, second, third down, keep it at Georgia College, and then if we get to a fourth down, we'll get something for us, maybe a little national story with a little bit bigger implications. But for now, we'll just start off with first down and take it off, Isaiah.
Yeah, first down, first and 10, we can say, I guess. Georgia College women's basketball, they took care of the number 4 seed Flagler in the Peach Belt Conference tournament last night. GC was the 5 seed, and they've earned themselves a position in the semifinals to take on the University of North Georgia, who is the number 1 overall seed. That Georgia College has had I guess you would say a little bit more success against this season than you would typically think a number 4 seed in a conference tournament would have over a number 1 seed.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really reassuring. Go down to Flagler, a team that we haven't beaten all year, and then you play them at home, and be able to take home a win. As the underdog, if the seedings mean anything, and we'll take on UNG this Saturday, and I think that's really going to be the game to watch. It'll be the conference semifinal, but we played them twice already this year. Once at their place, once here on homecoming, and these games decided by a basket each time. We led most of the way at their place and ended up losing the lead and losing on a buzzer beater 3. But they've been the 1 seed all year, and so for us to be able to bring them back here and dominate the game like we did, and ended up pulling away late to win by 2 in overtime, no less. We were up all game, and then they sort of did what we did to them. They came back and tied it up, and then we took them to overtime. We were able to put it away. It really tells you a lot about the parity between these teams. The 5 seed that's playing with the 1 seed that well. It's really anybody's game. But so if we can win the season series here on Saturday, I think we have a real good chance to bring home a championship.
Yeah, definitely. But not to jump ahead, I want to talk about the Flagler game for just a little bit. Aaliyah McGriff had her best game against the Saints last night. She had 21 points, 7 rebounds. To Asia Wright also added 10 points, 11 rebounds. Erin Drinan was huge as well. Flagler has a very dominant post player. I believe her name is Tabitha Odabe, I hope I said that right, but she's a very dominant post player. Doesn't score a ton of points, but really does do the dirty work, rebounding. I think leads the conference in rebounding. Also blocks a lot of shots as well. But Erin Drinan, our 6'2", transfer, came in from Chicago this past season, her first year here, but she held her to 6 points, 3 of 15 shooting. So a very good job by Erin Drinan, and kind of her defensive effort really sparked Georgia College last night, I think, and really helped us get going. Even though Drinan didn't have a huge night offensively, she still got the job done on the defensive end. Sometimes it's just as important, I think, to a team's success as somebody who can fill it up and score 25 or 30 points.
Absolutely. You look at these core players that have been doing it all year, and what can you say about Aaliyah McGriff at this point? 20 points, in 3 of her last 4 games. It's her 7th on the year, but like I said, 3 in her last 4. She's really been cranking it up late. And I wrote this story last weekend, so I had a little time to sit with Coach Mo Smith, and we talked mostly about Aaliyah's athleticism, because he did say she didn't start playing basketball until late in her high school career, and if she had started playing maybe a little bit earlier, like some of these other players that we see on the AAU circuit or earlier in middle school and high school, she'd probably be a D1 athlete. The athleticism she brings to the table, and she looks like she's just now starting to catch up her athleticism with her basketball skills, and they're starting to meet in the middle somewhere, and it's really at the rest of the conference's peril. And she makes a huge impact on defense. She just joined the 1,000-point club here at Georgia College a few weeks ago, so she's really starting to put it together late, and couldn't be at a better time.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Bobcats, Georgia College women here, are getting hot late, getting hot into March, and you can't ask for anything more as a coach. I mean, it's their March Madness right now. I know the traditional March Madness that we think of doesn't start for a couple more weeks, but for them, this is it, and so no better time to be playing your best basketball right now. But kind of jumping ahead, to this weekend, Georgia College, they're going to be in a really good position, like we talked about earlier, going against UNG, a team they've played very close. I think both games have been decided by single digits both times, but looking at the matchup here, I think the closeness of the previous two games, it's shown in the numbers and in the stats. I mean, UNG number one in scoring defense, number one in field goal percentage and field goal percentage defense, number two in 3-point percentage, but Georgia College, is right there. Georgia College and UNG are number one and number two in assists per game, respectively. Georgia College is number 3 in defensive rebounding. UNG is number 2. So there's a lot of statistical categories where UNG and Georgia College, like UNG may be 1, Georgia College is 3 or 4, or vice versa. Georgia College is 1 or 2, UNG is 4 or 5. So I think looking at the stats, I think that also helps to tell that story of how closely and evenly matched these two teams are.
Yeah, you look at the stats. The box scores. Even if you weren't able to make the game, I know we had a big crowd there at homecoming, which is nice to see. The women's team has been doing a little bit better than the men's team this year, so I'm glad we were able to get out there and support them. But you look at the straight up stats, how much of a team effort that victory was against North Georgia. We put up 44 bench points to North Georgia's 22. So if we're going to recreate that performance on Saturday, it's really going to need to be all hands on deck, so to speak. And that was one of the things I spoke with Tasia Wright, who's been a force lately. Pretty consistently putting up double doubles. It's pretty much been her, Aaliyah McGriff, Shea Tarver, and Aaron Dryden that have been the core players so far. And people like Sydney Cleveland will come in and contribute, but it's been them 4 that have been pretty consistent. And Tasia did say, Coach Smith's attitude for the team has been, we need everybody to do their job. They can count on Shea Tarver, to put up 12 assists pretty consistently. She's not going to score a lot of points for you typically, but last time out against North Georgia, she put up her first career double-double, 22 points, a career high for her. So if she can come out, maybe put up a 15-point, 12 assists, double-double, Tasia can get 12 points, 13 rebounds. Same thing from Aaron Dryden. Aaliyah will do her thing. Maybe a 20-10 performance with a couple blocks and be a force down low. I mean, I think we have a definite chance to take them down again, and hopefully we can put it all together.
Yeah, definitely. I think something I was thinking about too earlier. I think too for us, Georgia College, they just match up well with UNG. Sometimes if you're a top seed, there's a team that may be ranked lower than you, may not even be as good as you. I'm not saying that's the case with Georgia College because the numbers say otherwise, but there may be a team that's ranked lower than you and the polls say shouldn't be as good as you, but they just match up well with you. And I think that may be some of the case for Georgia College. But, I mean, both of these teams offensively, like you said, they both have kind of a do-your-job mentality. They don't have one player that's going to consistently fill it up. They do have their consistent contributors and people they count on. But, neither team has one player that's going to just come out, flat out, fill it up. Each team kind of relies on everyone doing their job and everyone contributing and putting a little bit into the pot, and at the end of the day, hopefully it comes out in the favor of that team. So it's going to be a very fun and very exciting matchup on Saturday.
Yeah, I really hope. What I would really like to see from the team this Saturday is, we have a tendency to we'll go up big and we'll kind of take our foot off the gas a little bit, so to speak, and the other team will sort of claw their way back in, and especially coming out of halftime. If you look at just the first half, second half comparisons, sometimes we'll come out flat. Second half, if we have a lead, I want to see if Coach Smith can really, get that mentality across that, this is, it's win or go home. So hopefully we can put our foot on the gas all first and second half.
Yeah, definitely. So best of luck to the women's basketball team this Saturday. But going to move forward here to our second down, second and long, I would say.
Yeah, moving the chains.
Going to keep trying to move the chains. But second down, we wrote a story last week on Brandt Stallings, transfer from Georgia Tech, came to Georgia College after, I think, 2 years at Georgia Tech. Is that correct? Okay, yep. 2 years at Tech. Had a 263 batting average, hit 13 home runs, 49 RBIs. So really had a feel for things at the Division I level and was kind of moving towards, I guess, hitting his stride, you could say, in his third year, but opted to come back down to the Division II level, play for a great program that Coach Eller is, continuing to push forward after having several great years in the past. In his second year, I think we're going to talk about Coach Eller probably a good bit next week, yep. But came down to Georgia College, and it has had a good bit of success this season. But how big has his impact been for this team?
He hasn't had a chance to make the impact on the field that I think he's want to so far. He has been injured. The status of that injury is so far pretty unclear. But coaches play that kind of stuff pretty close to the chest. So I think we'll find out more as the days go by. But he already, in 6 at-bats, he's already got a home run, 3 RBIs, hitting .333, so made an impact when he's had the chance to. But you look at early on in the season, we played number two in the country, Tampa, and we got swept by them. But in the first game, we played them 3-2, 5-4 in the next game, and then we got blown out 11-1 in the last game. So we were hanging with these teams. And you talk to people like Brandon Benson, who've, a senior catcher who's been a pretty sizable offensive force his past few years here. And one thing he had to say about just the you're looking at some better arms there on the Tampa side, and Brandt Stallings has seen those better arms. He's been at Georgia Tech, a nationally competitive program that cranks out. Well, I don't want to say cranks out, but puts out its fair share of major league players. And his big contribution, even from the dugout, was to identify some of those better arms and maybe help some of the players and see what they're looking for at the plate. And he's a smart guy. He's a freshman academic All-American, ACC All-American in his time at Georgia Tech, and as we all know, Georgia Tech, no easy times there in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I think that says a lot about him and his work ethic. To maintain a 4.0 in his first year at Georgia Tech is it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me, definitely very impressive. I mean, I think, like you said, the mental side that he brings is very, very important. Seeing, being able to identify better arms and help guys know exactly what to look for at the plate when they're up there. I know, like you said, Brandon Benson said against Tampa, he was very good at helping them against those better arms. And I mean, the arms in the ACC, they're no joke. So I think he's gonna the mental side that he brings to this team down the stretch could even play a part for this team in trying to make a deep run here in the postseason when they see some better teams, maybe have some top tier arms or arms that are getting looks to play in the major leagues, or even other players, and maybe seeing some ways to attack them, telling the pitchers ways to attack them when they're at the plate or things like that. But I think he's going to bring some much needed, some welcome pop back into the lineup as well. Like you said, 3 RBIs on the season, a home run, hitting .333, and I think 6 plate appearances. So, yeah, I mean, I think Brandt Stallings is going to be a name that we should get used to hearing as soon as he gets healthy, can get back in the lineup and really find his groove here, because I don't think he's going to go away anytime soon. I mean, like you said, he's the all-around player. I talked to Coach Eller for a different story that we'll probably get to talk about next week, but I'll save that for you guys. But just talk to him about the type of player that he recruits here and tries to get here in Georgia College and transfers in or incoming freshmen coming out of high school. But Brandt Stallings fits the mold. He really is the prototype. He can play baseball at a very high level, but he also handles his business in the classroom, takes care of business off the field, doesn't get in a lot of trouble, really just tries to do things the right way and be the type of player that all coaches would want. And so that really speaks very highly of him, and also highly of, I think, Coach Eller as well, for getting those type of guys in here to Georgia College and help contribute.
Yeah, that story Isaiah's alluding to, a recruiting piece he's put together, and hopefully we'll get to talk about that, as it comes together, and we'll talk about it hopefully next week or maybe the week after. But, it really does speak to the sort of the culture we've established here at Georgia College, the baseball team, and really the athletic department at large. AD at Wendell State is a big, high-character guy. And Brandt Stallings is one of those high character players. And, I mean, there's a reason that we have such a good ratio between the number of scholarships we offer and the number of people that actually take those scholarships. That's a team effort as far as the athletic department is concerned. And Brandt Stallings did say in his interview, it was more about the vibe he had here when he visited. When he was trying to pick where he was going to come. Because he had his pick of schools. Coming from Georgia Tech, and so for him to come, I mean, he's a Georgia boy. He went to Buford, and for him to come back to Georgia College, I think is a true testament to he wanted to play for a championship team, and we're fresh off a Peach Belt conference win, and returned a lot of guys, and there was a hole to fill. We lost Brandon Benson to the draft, no less, one of the best players in the conference last year, and so there was a serious hole to fill offensively. I mean, you got guys coming back like Brandon Purcell and Cal Gentry, but definitely a spot to be filled, and Brandt Stallings, hopefully if he gets healthy here in the next few games, he can start lining up at the plate and making more of an impact on the field instead of just from the dugout.
Yeah, definitely. Really hope to see him get back in the lineup here pretty soon and get back to contributing on the field just the way he's contributing off the field as well. But moving to third down here, we're going to take one last step here, one last, shot to pick up a first down here. We're going to dig into a little bit more of the baseball team. A couple weeks ago, we actually ran a piece about the perfect player. Asked Coach Eller to build his perfect player, and we asked him to build his perfect player, not just from the standpoint of the 5 tools of baseball that people generally think of when they think of a guy, who has speed, who has power, can hit for average, can field, and has, great arm strength. Those are the 5 tools that scouts look for, but I know as a coach, there are different intangibles, different things that they're looking for when they try to find a player. So just kind of talk about a little bit about what Coach Eller said his perfect player would look like if he could pick guys on his team.
Yeah, and if you guys have a chance, check it out on the website gcsucolonnade.com or come by the Colonnade office and we'll give you a print copy. But the infographic really is probably one of my favorite we've done here so
Yeah,
far since
definitely.
Isaiah have been on the desk. Shout out to Kristen Pack for that one. So if you guys see her around campus, know her, give her a little pat on the back. The thing that strikes out to me is Cal Gentry. He's a sophomore. This guy is unbelievable to play. Hit 441 last year as a true freshman on one of the premier teams in the conference, and by the end of the year was leading off for the Bobcats. So 441 in his freshman year with 1 home run and 42 RBIs, and so far he's hitting 323, but already has 2 home runs. So already doubled his home runs from last year, and hopefully he can keep that up. So it really does say a lot about how much faith Coach Eller has in him. He calls him one of the best hitters he's ever got the opportunity to work with in his 18 seasons of coaching. He used the whole field, and hitting for average is really it's a no-brainer. Going with Cal Gentry as far as that's concerned. And then you got your I think we made sure to include those multidimensional aspects in terms of what we were looking for as far as this perfect player. It wasn't all physical. There's 5 tools, like Isaiah said. We included mental toughness and your leadership abilities and positive attitude. And you got seniors like Charlie Hecht, who's been a pretty sizable force for the Bobcats on the mound, and got a 1.13 ERA so far, which is I think he had a 4.83 last year, which is a little on the higher side, but it looks like he's dialing it in so far this year. Only I think 9 games into the season, 10 games into the season so far, but 1.13 ERA in three appearances is pretty deadly. He started the first game against Tampa, and we lost that game 3-2. So he pitched a 3-run game against the number 2 team in the country. So I think that says a lot about him, and even more to Coach Eller's faith in him. And you got guys like Brandon Purcell, who you would expect to be the leader, the catcher, keeping everything control on the field, but also a senior. So he's really in control of the guys, off the field and in the dugout and in the classroom, really staying on everybody. And base running, he was also Coach Eller's choice for base running. Coach Eller had a good laugh about that because apparently Brandon lost his green light last year. Must have got caught stealing or got doubled up or something. But no green light for him this year. But apparently he's got the smarts on the base pass, which is what you want. Apparently not the fastest guy on the team. That'll go to Wesley Womack, who apparently is just burning up the base pass for the Bobcats. He said in a straight line, Wesley Womack, one of the fastest guys on the team. So it'll go to him. But, you look at the lineup that we returned after a Pete's Belt championship win last season, and like I said earlier with Brandt, we graduated some pretty impactful players on offense. Brandon Benson, who led the conference in home runs and RBIs and extra base hits. So that's you're looking to produce a lot more from guys this year, and it looks like we've got guys that are stepping up so far because we're undefeated in conference play this year, and so it looks like Coach Eller doesn't really miss a beat, and that's one thing I'm really excited about. As moving forward is just spending more time with him and making it out to some games and really just seeing the culture he develops. That'll be one of our stories next week. What we'll talk about with you guys is what does he do? Because he was he was at Augusta University and turned that program around. I mean, they were horrible. He got there in 3 seasons there and gave him their first winning season since 2010. They came to Georgia College, his first season, bam, Peach Belt championship, and now 6-0 conference play this year. So this guy is a machine. So it's really going to be exciting to see what's going to happen moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Coach Eller, I think, really knows his stuff. I got to talk to him as well for the recruiting piece I'm putting together, and he really just knows what it takes, I think, to put together a championship team. And, from the aspect of recruiting, he really understands the importance and the urgency of getting those guys in and kind of creating a pipeline. And just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek there, he really does love recruiting out of the state of Georgia. Georgia is his kind of pipeline state and the hotbed that he said he believes the Peach State has the best talent in the nation. So he said he really doesn't look to leave a lot of times to find that talent because it's right in his back door, essentially, a lot of the times. But, one of the things that really stood out to me. He said Brandon Purcell is the best base runner, but just looking at the stats, Brandon Purcell, has a 456 on base percentage. So if you basically half the time he's getting on base half the time, that threat and the pressure he puts on opposing pitchers and opposing catchers and just opposing defenses as a whole, being a threat to take off and take swipe second and get in scoring position and make it a little bit easier for those guys in the middle of the lineup to kind of generate offense and drive runs in. That really stands out as well to me. And then also his most mentally tough player, Charlie Hecht. I think that's an awesome spot to have. Your most mentally tough guy is on the pitcher's mound, because pitchers face all kinds of adversity, all kinds of challenges in the course of a season, and with him being your number one guy and the guy that's going to take the hill for you in a close game or in a game where you got to have a win. Him being able to be mentally tough, maybe power through some adversity, get out of a jam and things like that. That's really big for any baseball team, but especially a team that is as good as Georgia College and I think has the goals that this team has and wants to be in the places that they want to be at the end of the season. So thank Coach Eller for that. Best of luck to him and the baseball team as well. But that's all we have as far as Colonnade stories go for this week. But a little segment we're going to hit you guys with every now and then. We're going to hit you guys a little fourth down. We're going to go for it and see what we can do. So only going to do that some of the times when there's a big story, a national story, or we maybe have an extra story that was great at the Colonnade as well. But for this week, let's talk about the whole pay-for-play thing in the NCAA, the report that came down and that stuff. It's a whole – we could sit here for 2 hours like me and Chris were saying before the show. This is probably a show in and of itself, a long show in and of itself. But just kind of hit on it and what you think of it and what you make of it as well.
I've been one of those guys. I've been a stickler to say anything about the NCAA because I'm usually pretty trusting when it comes to that kind of stuff. But it's not. I don't want to say it's surprising because I feel like it's one of those things people know have been going on for a while. The corruption inside the NCAA, basketball and football at large, the two biggest money making entities for them. But it's astounding how when people get out of their time in college, I can't think of an organization that is unanimously hated by every member of that organization once their time is up. I mean, I don't know that you could ask a college football player or a college basketball player at a major program or a mid-major program that thought the NCAA did a bang up job or did right by them, because you look at the money that these athletes bring in, it's astounding.
Yeah. And
it's getting to the point where this amateurism ideal is it's a pipe dream almost, and it's unrealistic, and it's a little bit it's definitely manipulative. Teams like UGA come to mind that are very close to Isaiah and I's hearts, and they're putting up a new jumbotron at Sanford Stadium coming up for this upcoming season. Like, who do you think paid for that? It wasn't the boosters. It was on the backs of Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb and a national championship appearance and a Rose Bowl win. Like, all the money that those victories and those players bring in. You go into the UGA bookstore, you're not seeing random jerseys. You're not seeing number 64 jersey. Like, you're seeing 4 and 1 and 11. Like, you're seeing the premier players, and they might not have their name, but everyone knows who they are.
Yeah.
And, they're building up these cities. These smaller college towns like Knoxville and Athens and Tuscaloosa. Imagine these universities weren't there. Or imagine these universities weren't as successful as they are. These major premier programs. They're funding almost not single-handedly. It's definitely a team effort, but these programs, at least at large, are funding these smaller towns. But with their national success.
Yeah, definitely. I think personally, it's about time for college players in general to be compensated in some way. I've heard a lot. I've grappled with the idea of just how do you do it, and how do you do it in a way to where they're not just being handed money and say, okay, here, go use this. But last night I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was saying that kind of do something like we have the Bobcat card, where you can use it at the grocery store, you can use it at the local restaurant, you can use it downtown at the bookstore or whatever, but you can't take it to Kroger and buy cigarettes or buy tobacco or buy alcohol with it, things like that. So it just depends on what your ideals are as far as handing 18, 19, 20-year-olds cash, essentially. If you think it should be an open season, by all means. But I think the NCAA is going to try to keep this close to the vest, but I do also believe that it's time for them to start coming off some of the cash. Because I know March Madness itself is $1 billion entity right there for the NCAA. It makes them billions off of the TV, off of revenue, the sales, selling the T-shirts and things like that off of, I'm sure the venues give some money to the NCAA, and I'm sure there's a partnership there. But, as far as that goes, I mean, it's time for these guys to get compensated for doing what they do, for having essentially a full-time job along with school. Because I know for me and you, it's not illegal for us to be at school on an academic scholarship and say, okay, I want to go get a part-time job to have some extra money. So why should it be illegal for them who, those guys are working kind of a full-time job, essentially, and they're not able to get compensated in any way? And guys who come from, backgrounds or homes that may not have as much money as, that may be from poor neighborhoods or things like that may not have a lot of money, that puts a strain definitely on their home and also on them to try and, they want to be a normal college kid. They want to be able to go downtown with their friends and have a burger, or go to go to a local bar and get some wings or whatever. But sometimes they can't because, they don't have the money. They don't have the extra pocket cash. So I think it's time for the NCAA definitely to give these guys some compensation for their work. But the other thing that kind of bothers me is the fact that people are so appalled by these findings. Like, $100 handshakes have kind of been the norm for a while.
One of those unwritten rules.
Yeah, it's one of those unwritten rules. If you're good enough, you're going to be taken care of. I know at home, my eye doctor is the place where a lot of the Georgia football players go to get their eyes checked as well. So
don't be outing anybody.
I'm not outing anybody. I'm just saying there are a lot of nice cars that roll through there.
Got a big season coming up.
There are a lot of nice cars that roll through there that have nice cars that roll through there that college kids are driving. That's all I'm saying. But you're going to be taken care of, essentially, I think, but it's not this big shock. And I'm surprised that a lot of the bigger media heads and pundits are acting as shocked as they are and wanting to condemn the players for essentially at sometimes trying to take care of themselves, or maybe even take care of their families back home and things like that.
Yeah, it's very, very, I think, disingenuous of the media at large, and some of these things like First Take and, Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless, and they want to feign this appalling, this is ridiculous, no one saw this coming. But we've known this was going on for years, so don't act like you didn't know, or don't act. But if you want to, but you're going to profit off of it nonetheless. They're gonna act like they're all appalled, but they're still gonna profit off the same system, and until there's a change. And I mean, you look at athletes that go broke. I mean, it's something like 70% of athletes 2 years out of the NFL are broke, or 50% of athletes 4 years out of the NBA are broke. And I think the NCAA shares some of that onus. That's where these big money sports are. I mean, they probably do a fine job with these lower sports that don't make as much money. With the Title IX stuff, that's all good and well. Sports like gymnastics, equestrian, swimming, that aren't bringing in the big money like this. But when you've got athletes that go from making no money and they actually cannot have a job, and I think they get like an $85 a week stipend or something from the NCAA.
Yeah.
You go from making $85 a week from the NCAA as an 18, 19-year-old kid. You go to the draft, and all of a sudden you're making millions of dollars as a 20-year-old kid. I'm 22. If I got $1 million or $35 million signing bonus like some of these players are, my head would explode. If you go from having no experience, no financial experience, no financial training, to coming into millions of dollars as you're not even finished growing yet. I mean, who here could do that the right way? And so I think the NCAA definitely shares some of the blame, and definitely deserves some of the criticism. And I think that people are starting to realize that the more and more it comes out why these athletes are broke. They have no financial training, and they come to all this money. And so maybe if we start combining that that financial training with a little bit of if they work out some sort of system where the higher athletes, and they some sort of mathematical formula that will grant them a certain amount of money on a weekly basis or monthly basis, or maybe just while they're in season, or so. There's just got to be a better way than just saying, oh, amateurism, can't pay them. Like that amateurism is just a BS term anyway. It's something that the NCAA uses to sort of hide behind to. They get to fill their pockets with it, and at the mercy of these athletes that are putting their bodies on the line week in and week out. So it's definitely time to do something, and I think people are it's starting to shift that conversation. Definitely, I think is shifting in the players' favor.
I agree, definitely. I know the question I've been asking a lot of people when talking about this. I just say, why is it wrong to pay players? And the answer that I always get, well, the NCAA rules. Well, the NCAA rules, they're not some kind of precedent. They're just the NCAA's rules.
Not
Rules
like
can be
it's
changed.
not gospel.
Amended.
Yeah.
It's not gospel. So I mean, at that point, it's time for wide sweeping change. Because I think a lot of people, when you put it to them like that, their thinking kind of shifts. I know when it was put to me like that, that's when my thinking kind of shifted as well. And so I've been kind of trying to push people that way as well. But to steal a quote from one of my favorite movies, The Dark Knight, if you remember the Joker, he says, if you're good at something, never do it for free. So that's what I'm saying to all these college athletes. Not saying telling you to boycott March Madness or anything like that, but definitely push to get your compensation for doing what you're doing, because you're doing a very good job at it. You're bringing people like me and Chris a lot of entertainment, giving us something to talk about, hopefully helping us find jobs one day. So definitely, if you're good at something, you shouldn't be forced to do it for free by some higher governing body like the NCAA. So that's definitely something that I think we could potentially revisit.
Yeah, I doubt this story is going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
The NCAA is going to have to answer to this somehow. People are getting too up in arms about it, and as the sports media starts to shift in the players' favor, then the pressure is going to be put on the NCAA to answer. So, yeah, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm sure we'll be back talking about it.
Definitely. But thank you guys for listening. That's all we have for this week. Please be sure to go check us out online. Going to be on the Colonnade website, gcsucolonnade.com. Be sure to give us a listen there. Be sure to check out all our stories there as well. We publish every Wednesday, so stories go up usually on around Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So be sure to check out all our stories. If there's anything you want to hear, don't hesitate to send us an email. Flag me and Chris down on campus one day. If you have a good story, let us know about it. We'd love to talk about it, love to write about it. So thank you guys for listening. This is Isaiah Smith.
And it's Chris Lambert. See you guys.